Cool. So this is another podcast of my YouTube channel, The Modern Web Architect. And today we have another guest. It's Björn Schotte. Actually, it's the 2nd July. Just Fable came out again. Did you see the news, Björn?
Yeah, of course. I've seen that the rumors that Sonnet 5 was releasing, and then it was clear, okay, shortly after Fable 5 will come out. And I currently have some terminal windows open to burn through my tokens.
Yes, same over
like
here.
Like every other does.
Yeah, same over here. I just started some code reviews with Fable 5.
Yes.
But hey, Björn, I mean, we don't know each other. We know us from LinkedIn, or at least yes. I follow you a little bit. What you share a lot of GitHub repos. You talk a lot about AI and agentic yes. AI. So I thought it would be interesting to invite you to discuss the topic. But before I say something wrong, Björn, maybe you can introduce yourself yes. Rather quickly, who you are, where you came from, what is your current role? Yeah, who are you, Björn?
Yeah, I'm Björn. I'm German. I'm one of the co-founders of Mayflower. We are an independent IT software implementation house, and we are existing nearly 30 years now on the market, so long before AI was there. We did a lot of things like writing banking rating software for big banks, for insurance companies, a lot of e-commerce stuff. So over the industries, we did several solutions. We have a strong modernization angle. So we did a lot of modernization projects of large platforms in the past. And yeah, I have been a software developer. I'm a co-founder, so I'm running the company with my mate Johan, who is based in Munich. And he's CTO and deep knee into technology. And I'm mainly into advising customers and consulting customers. But nowadays with AI, I got back into the trenches and writing serious hobby software.
I see. And for sure, since you are a software development company, AI and especially the processes around AI are very important for you. But before we dive into too much the details, I'm curious, how was it for you, like this AI wave? I mean, you are in business for quite a long time. Obviously, like IDEs or, any assistance improvement for software development and software lifecycle management was before AI also important. But how did you experience the launch of ChatGPT? What happened at that day for you, and what were your thoughts about it?
Yeah, we got into AI, specifically into machine learning long before ChatGPT, because in our e-commerce customer cluster, we always did things like similarity search or forecasting things for our e-commerce customers. So we had a bit of experience with our teams. And to make it clear, we are now over 75 people currently, so strong into bigger projects. And we came across the generative AI wave at the end of 2022. So long before ChatGPT was published. It was March 23 when ChatGPT was published. And we came along at the end of 22 and saw the potential about the technology and about the first open source frameworks that were published. To give things into context, we are deep into open source. We are contributors of diverse technology sets even before AI. And at the end of 22, we experienced a small framework called LangChain, which is nowadays the world's most known and used framework for LLM orchestration and LLM interference. And we hooked up on it with a whole team of 10 people and wrote agentic software even before agentic was a term in the Gartner hype cycle on the left. So we had deep experience. And with that, we contributed to LangChain, we contributed to VLLM, Llama Index, we contributed last year to the Kubernetes 6 sandbox from Google and other crazy stuff we did. We also fine-tuned models. We have a Hugging Face organization with around about 100 different fine-tuned local models. And 2 years ago, we also had the smallest, fastest local German model, but just for 4 weeks, because after 4 weeks, another researcher recombine things and was faster, but it was just mainly for funny things. So that's how we got into it, and we made a strategic bet that this will be the future, both for software developers, so for agentic engineering itself, and both for our customers who want to create solutions that drive the business forward in multitudes of terms.
And I mean, you explained now, and it seems you are quite deep in it even before, but then, this new UI, this chat-based ChatGPT UI. I remember myself back, I had a couple of sleepless nights because it seemed, I had no clue how these UIs or these new interaction types will impact basically businesses all over. And there was a time where it seems that you can do everything through a chat UI. How was it for you? This new pattern intelligence through a chat UI.
Yeah, it was like wizardry and magic in the first run in 2023. But it was also limited first, of course. We all remember ChatGPT. We all remember the internet jokes about, it can't calculate to numbers and stuff like that. And that was because most people misunderstood the whole basics and mechanics of the generative pre-trained transformer model, which was a next token predictor. Nowadays we have multi-token prediction and stuff like that. But it was magical because it was like a human. He understood me, he could answer basic questions, and it was great to see how the technology and the principles evolved. We then had the React models, or reasoning and acting, and that was the first lift in 2024, where we had some jump into the so-called intelligence of the models. And with real agentic usage in 2025 and all the basic primitives on the LLMs surrounding, which is normal software development, to be honest, professional software development, we got really intelligent systems.
Yeah, very interesting. I mean, we are already deep in the topic, agentic AI. I'm curious, so you said you made a bet early on to really shift or adopt these new technologies, thinking agentically. I'm curious, how did you know that this is the future to go that early on? Or what were the signs or the signals where you said, okay, I see now we have to shift? I mean, it was quite for a long time, it was not clear that this is even working in a bigger or outside of just prototypes. Even today, some people would claim that, there will be downsides. But what were the signals for you?
Yeah, first of all, one stark signal was my co-founder, Johan, who is CTO in our company and deep knee into technologies. And he said, okay, let's jump onto that. And that was one signal. The other signal was trying with the chat interface you mentioned and seeing hands-on, okay, there must be something in it. There must be some potential for us and for our customers. And the other thing was some trends from the US, of course. If you follow Twitter along, all techies from the world and especially Silicon Valley are there, and they all shared their early experience and their early experiments. And we adapted that to our customer base and said, okay, this will be the future, especially for software development, although all the primitives and all the agentic intelligence we have nowadays was not there at 2023. So we saw, okay, there will be primitives that get built out over the years, like cloud technology 20 years ago. Amazon started with EC2, just a file container. And now we have hundreds of services in the global cloud hyperscalers.
Yeah, okay. And so maybe I want to step back a little bit and say, okay, I assume you talk a lot about AI with C-level people, which are not that technical.
Yes.
I see it also in our organizations. We are also very technical. For us, it's very natural to adopt new technologies. But let's say for an organization, let's say mid-size or even large-size organizations, which are not technical, how do you explain agentic AI to these people? And also, how do you frame, let's say, the different pockets? I mean, there is a lot of things in agentic AI, but I'm curious, how do you see it, maybe, differentiate the different fields?
Yeah. That's a good question. The first thing, or the first analogy we always explain is like, imagine you have thousands of PhD students in your pocket and they work for you. That was the meme 2024. And last year we got the meme, the future of work will be results as a service. So you You spawn up an agent that's like a digital twin of your employees, or of your best employees. You spawn up the agent and give them an order like create this, create that, and he comes back with a result. So you leave out the intermediate steps and the intermediate chats, that the turn-based chatting you did before. You just say, okay, that's the order, let's do this. And then the agent is running on a long horizon span, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes inside your IT system, and creates a variety of different things, interacts with your different IT systems, steers a virtual browser, is orchestrating a virtual PC, a Windows PC, and doing things in desktop applications and stuff like that. And that's result-oriented way of working. And it's like imagination. You have a virtual employee and he does all the things for you and comes back with a result.
I see. And so basically, I mean, yeah, you said it's 1,000 PhD students, or there is a data center of, or a city of, and that was another like a phrase that's going around. It's still, you know, I hear the story a lot, and it makes sense, but it's not tangible. Maybe you have an example, like a very practical example, maybe even a project you did. I remember I think it was you who experimented with contracts, basically contract analysis.
Yes.
Maybe you take this example or another one, just to make it very tangible. I really like this notion of outcome-based, basically a system. You just say, I need this, and then you get that back.
Yeah, we had contract management as a good example, because imagine you have a lot of contracts inside your company and you get new contracts with your suppliers. You have to create and stuff like that, and then you have a virtual agent who is analyzing the contract, who is pinpointing the contract, who is trying to find holes inside the contract, like a security researcher does when doing a pen testing of a software. And then the agent looks from all angles and all sides on the contract. Do we have any contradictions? Do we have any holes? Is there anything we can leverage for the negotiation with our supplier? And the agent is analyzing all this, and at the end transmitting a redlined Word document, for example, where you have all the comments, all the red lines in it. And you don't have to chat with that. So it's not upload a document and going to chat with it. It's just throwing a document into a folder, and the agent will be triggered and analyzes from itself, using some skills, of course, to get the trajectory, and then handling on its own, maybe even emailing the customer or the supplier, okay, we have our automated redlining here. Please check the contract negotiation, or we have some additions here. Another great example is, for example, if you are a CFO and you want to get an overview of the current results of your business. Usually you have your data lake, and then you have tools like Power BI or any other reporting generation application. And you have employees who create the reports manually, who define the reports manually. That's a sign of the past. The future will be, in this case, you have a chat interface and you say, okay, give me a visual chart about our sales from last quarter in North America, and make a financial projection with a forecast, with an uplift when we add another supplier, etc., etc. And then you get an automatic dashboard based on the analysis of the past and the forecast of the future, just in your chat window. And this was not possible before we had the agent technology and all the building blocks, the software building blocks around the LLMs for these things. And these are two tangible examples how this could be done.
Right. And so based on these two examples, I think it's very, very, interesting to see what is actually the UI you use in the end. I mean, we have this very established, chat Copilot like UIs. I think many organizations now adopt Microsoft Copilot that integrates nice in the Microsoft cloud. There is also Gemini, which integrates nicely with the Google cloud, etc. But what you are actually talking about is not only that. I mean, this is one way to interact with AI, but if you have like this very specialized agentic systems, so these are basically applications, but with native AI use in it, or how would you explain that, or what is the difference between a chat assistant and these agentic AI systems, and how you think about it?
I can share something if you want on my desktop. Just give me a second. I just prepared something, and you are seeing here a base stack of our system. It's called MayStack. It's not a chat application like OpenWebUI or LibreChat. It's our software-defined thinking about how we establish AI architecture in an enterprise. And of course, the system has a chat interface because it's easier to explain. Of course, you can have agents that are running in the background that don't need any chat. It's a really modular system, mainly based on open source components we use, like Light LLM for LLM routing, like LangFuse for logging and tracing, Dexter for data pipelining, so extracting PDFs and Excel files and stuff like that, and analyzing that. And the example I wanted to display here is give me the sales statistics from last quarter as a visual. And because we don't have it connected to a financial system of a customer, I said, okay, create some example data, and then I get an interactive widget dashboard as an output here. And the base of the system is a so-called deep agent. We are heavily leaning on LangChain's deep agent framework. As I said before, LangChain is the most advanced orchestration framework in the world for orchestrating LLM calls. And the deep agent has all the primitives a system like Claude Code or Codex has. So it has a virtual file system, it can reason, it has a dynamic to-do list, it can reason about what does the user want from me, like analyze this contract or give me these financial statistics. It's running in a secured sandbox. It can create spontaneously a program itself. That's what it did here, because an LLM cannot create a dynamic chart with widgets and stuff like that. But LLMs are pretty trained about writing program code. So we created a deep agent that is connected to all your internal systems with MCP, has skill support, and it also runs in a sandbox where it is able to create a spontaneous small piece of software. In this case, it created a piece of software to display the data it collected as a visual chart in a dynamic dashboard. That's the power of a deep agent. The long reasoning ability, dynamic task lists. I make another easy example. Say you want to organize the birthday party of your daughter. Then you have to bake a cake. You have to reserve the restaurant, the location, for example. You have to buy balloons. You have to buy drinks and stuff like that. And the agent is running all the things and says, okay, now I'm baking the cake. And when the cake is finished, it reasons about the result and thinks about, there are some things missing in the cake. So I need other things to do, like a candle. We need candles on the cake. I didn't have that on my to-do list. Okay, so the next thing is I put buying candles at the local grocery store for the cake. And so it dynamically adapts the to-do list. It also sees, okay, which MCP tools can I use, like collecting the data from SAP, collecting the data from SharePoint, writing the customer an email and stuff like that. And it also always checks if the original goal that was given to him, like give me the financial dashboard or find holes in the contract that give us a lever in the negotiations, it reasons about if the traction is going alongside the original goal. And if not, it adapts his to-do lists. And that is why the agent can run 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes without losing traction to the original goal. And these primitives, all these software things we put into our modular stack, and chat is only one interface, mail is another interface, dark factory of knowledge work is the next interface we especially do for example, contract analysis or automated sales and marketing things, automated analysis. And we also have a voice bot system which is able to replace whole call centers with real-time speech-to-speech technology and background agents running for long goals you give on the voice. So unlike speech-to-text, text-to-speech, which always has latency, which doesn't have natural prosody and things like that, we are able to digitalize every single knowledge work, every single part inside a company, because we have all the primitives. The MayStack system has a virtual browser to act on, has a virtual PC to act on. So when you have old desktop applications, you can automate all these things. So it's very flexible and yeah.
So yeah, as I understand, you built your own kind of stack, the MayStack.
Yes.
You mentioned it, and you built it on top of LangChain to establish all sorts of agentic applications. And I think it's interesting to see that obviously it seems that there is no standard solution yet to build up that things. I mean, we also did similar approach. Obviously, everybody tries to make sense of how to build these agentic systems, and you need a stack. I'm curious, how do you think about the big AI labs? OpenAI might come up with this so-called super app or Codex, and also Claude Code or the Claude desktop app is also kind of this way of trying to orchestrate, different data sources, tasks, etc. Will, let's say, MayStack be obsolete in a year or two? Or do you see, this super app of OpenAI is certainly one important player in the future about how we consume information and basically how we interact with a system? How is your strategic thinking about it? Because now lots of organizations also need to kind of decide on what train I'm going on, and also maybe you can also explain some misunderstandings about agentic AI, but because obviously it's not as easy as buying a ChatGPT license and then you're agentified. Yes. So there's much more
that
to it.
Work. Yeah, there's much more into it. We are knee deep into this because one of our ex-employees is working at Anthropic now and one of the inventors of the MCP protocol. So we were very early on thinking about what are the primitives a good agentic software needs. And as I said before, MayStack is just a representation of building blocks, different open source stacks, along with glue code from our side and some special IP, of course. But we lean heavily on the shoulders of giants, like the interface you have seen as Copilot Kit UI, which is currently the most advanced interface system for agentic software. And it is the preferred or most supported chat interface system or UI interface system from the Frontier Labs, because it supports MCP UI, AG UI, and all the protocols you have in there. We also have an agent-to-agent gateway in our stack. We use Dexter, which is an established data ingestion pipeline. We use Light LLM, as I mentioned. We use LangFuse for tracing, or LangSmith, the commercial one from the LangChain crowd. And the core is the Deep Agent, which is based on LangGraph, which is based on LangChain. And Deep Agent gives us the flexibility for that. And with the Light LLM model proxy, our customers are flexible choosing either or the other LLM provider. Even we have some customers who use local LLM models like Qwen or GLM inside our stack. So we retain the flexibility for our customers. And in regards to the Frontier Labs, I don't fear the super app. I don't fear like cloud managed agents. It's fine for users and for companies who want to go all into one Frontier Lab, who want to go all into one software as a service system. Our customers don't want to do that. And they want to have the flexibility to choose the model providers, to switch costs, to optimize their costs, like you do in cloud services with the FinOps principle. We also do that within AI. And so it's better to have the choice to switch between models, especially because models sometimes degrade in their quality and speed. And with tracing systems, and that's number one, we stress even before a project, we say, okay, we need to have systems and create things like golden data sets, ground truth data sets. We need to have evals and traces and regular evaluations throughout the night to test if the trajectory of the agent is in our goal. So that's a very easy miss. Most companies don't think about, because they think AI is like a CD-ROM. Just insert and install it and then go again to sleep. And I always stress that also on conferences and in podcasts. No, AI is expensive. If you don't want to invest, just don't do it. Please do me a favor, just don't do it. And the thing is, as I said before, even 3 years in with generative AI, we are just at the beginning. It's like 20 years ago when Amazon brought up EC2, the first primitive of the cloud-based systems. We are just at the beginning, and it doesn't make sense to wait or to standardize because all the components are evolving fast. For example, sandboxing. Sandboxing is a system primitive that gives us secure, isolated coding agents that can run inside your IT organization safely and with egress and ingress limitations. That primitive wasn't existent in June last year. It just came up like October, November, and now it's a common theme to have sandboxed agents. So all the primitives are evolving. Some will be invented. 2 years ago we had just normal RAG. Then 1 year ago we had graph RAG. Now we have Agentic RAG, which is able to retrieve information at a very high quality, because you have an agent that reasons about the data that is in your graph-based RAG system and gives you a lot more quality. That was not possible 2 years ago because it wasn't invented yet.
I want to go a little bit further with the discussion, and organizations now feel, okay, we started to adopt AI, but there was a little bit of success, but maybe not so much. The hype is still here. Everybody says, let's go AI. But still, I feel that lots of people are confused on how to actually go in the agentic direction. And my question to you is, what are the success factors to basically get a team or an organization on board, and how to basically integrate these systems, for example, the one you showed before, and think, what's your thinking around that? Like, what is a successful process? What is important?
Yeah. So a successful process is not, and let me begin with the misunderstandings. A successful process is not closing the boardroom, put up a whiteboard and put stickies on that. That doesn't earn you any money as a company. You have to experiment, you have to create small applications, and from success to success, the applications will get bigger. And that's why we, for example, created the MayStack, because it gives our customers a speed advantage, because most of the primitives are already there, and then you just build up on that with your use case. That's the first thing to say. The second thing to say is we have a proven track record how we go into creating such applications. We do a AI requirements workshop at the beginning, where we lay deep a use case. We use classical software techniques like event sourcing, so workshop methods for analyzing a process in a very lightweight way and transforming it into what architecture do I need from a software side, what are the building blocks I need, what is the use case, does the use case give meaningful ROI in the near-term future, because companies don't want to wait 2 years that a use case gives a meaningful return of invest. So we tactically, in such a workshop, we create a roadmap that gives value payoffs iteratively and at the very earliest moment. So after 4 weeks, you get the first slice of useful software that you can use first, and then the next slice after another 2 weeks and another 2 weeks and so on and so on. And it's important to have a final, or to have a goal architecture in mind. So where do I want that my company AI architecture will be in 2 years? That's useful to have a mental model, to build a shared mental model in such a workshop. but then not to build up everything, but just the slices I need for my architecture for each use case. So for the first use case, for example, I don't need any fine-tuning of a model, but for the second use case, maybe I need that, and then I put up the architecture for that just before starting the next use case. And within each use case, you also use the evolutionary architecture. It's in basic principles. So you have a iterative deployment of architectural primitives inside your organization with a end goal in mind. And it's important to know that the architecture is also evolving like the software. So classical agile software things, and that's it mainly. And of course, you start with an easier use case. And to give you an example, one of our customers, we did a very large AI project, but the first use case when they approached us was the classical, we need a chatbot for our employees, because it was the de-risked use case prioritization from their point of view. But when we got into the workshop and when we explained all the things what agentic systems can do and stuff like that, they changed their mind, and they said, oh, okay, that's interesting to know. Maybe we should do the second use case first, because they realized it can be done. They just deprioritized it in the back because they thought from their perspective, where they weren't very deep into AI, that this is high risk and shouldn't be done at first.
Yeah, I mean, from what I hear you is, okay, go with start with small experiments, yes. Learn from it, get some experience. Yes. And soon after you will realize things are actually possible, and then from there you can just build up your experience.
Yes, and just one addition, and don't try to standardize on one model or one system. So like, we install Copilot and everything will be fine. No, it won't be fine, because you have to experiment, and we are in a non-deterministic world now. So you have continuous experimentation where you get the rewards through reviewing everything and going into small experiments. And depending on how much experience you have with previous AI attempts, it may be a good strategic idea to start with a smaller use case, but that gives you a meaningful ROI. So just a small email robot that is not connected to your voice system and not connected to your web page and things like that, and which doesn't have all the context of your company, doesn't make any sense, because the ROI is not very, very high. And that's why before we go into a workshop, we just usually get a list from customers, like, these are my 20 use cases we prioritized and crowdsourced from our departments. And then we analyze that from a technical standpoint of view. And then usually we say, okay, if you start with use case 4, the benefit from use case 1 will come automatically, because a chat window where the marketing can create marketing texts, it comes out of the box, because you have a deep agent LLM and you have the chat window anywhere, anyhow in our system. So it comes out of the box. So we try to find synergies between use cases. And then in the workshop with the event sourcing technique and putting up a tactical roadmap, we create a use case mixture that gives the highest possibility of a good ROI.
So one aspect you haven't touched when working with, let's say, organizations who want to adopt AI is the organization itself, like the hierarchies, the different roles. Yes. Obviously, if you want to become a native AI organization, and let's say you are an old traditional organization, so this is not only, just analyzing the existing workflows and kind of put AI into it, it's actually a massive transformation of the whole organization. So basically, it's a change management project, or basically a big restructure of the organization, which then I would say a lot of C-level people say, oh my God, we have new technologies. We have to onboarding them. There is a lot of fear about what is my job now, etc. So how do you deal with that? Or maybe you have some stories around that where were, some learnings from your side, and maybe you can talk about that aspect as well.
Yeah. It's confidential, but I want to try to explain some of the basic building blocks for that. Of course, we stress the topic of change management in every aspect, and even at the beginning of a customer engagement. And the most important thing is that you don't forget the humans, because AI systems are so powerful, people have fear of AI. And of course, we cannot give a relief about that for your employees, but we can help you in the change management process. So, for example, our Agile coaches and Agile consultants they are able to build a triad of consulting and change management inside your company with your own employees responsible for change management. And the second thing is that when you implement AI systems at the very beginning, you always need the humans itself, because all the implicit tactical and experience knowledge of somebody who is 30 years into a company is inside his brain. So there are no documentations about that. And you need this experience. And we need this experience too, because when building the software, I talked about the golden truth data sets and things like that. That comes from those experienced employees. So we need a cooperation between the human and the AI system in order to improve the AI system. And then gradually, the task the human did before is not necessary anymore because the AI is doing that. And then comes the change management process, because you have to think about what does the human do in the future? Which other duties does he have, which have a higher leverage, which are more complex, which cannot be done yet with AI? And this is a change management transformation that is very big. I think it's even bigger than Agile transformation in the last 20 years. And companies have to think about that, because they are responsible for their employees. And we help setting up programs with them in order to help those employees get fluent with AI. And we do that on all levels. We do that for software engineers, because when we implement so-called dark software factories for companies, that means fully automated software generation throughout the whole software development lifecycle from idea to production. You also have some kind of change management for software employees or software engineers, because they move up the ladder. They are not writing code anymore. They're not reviewing anymore, but they are optimizing and creating directions for the machine that builds the thing. And the same is with the knowledge worker. So you have to relearn new skills, and we help those customers with that, with our people. But it's a really big topic, and we stress it even before going into a project.
Yeah, so what you're saying basically is upskilling on all levels, and
yes.
Just also approach it with an open mind and with curiosity. But yeah, I also see organizations struggle, or let's say it a bit more positive, approach it slowly, which is maybe also a good strategy. You can jump into it and you can make a big mess or big chaos. But it's interesting to see. But
yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
sorry, I don't think so, because companies are in a sandwich position.
Yeah.
From the bottom, you have the need to upskill your employees, and on the top, you have the market storm, especially in Europe, where we have a low slowdown. You don't have time. That's a problem. And that is, everybody has to understand. And there's a third, in the sandwich, there's a third side sandwich that's coming, because technology is moving so fast. You don't have time on all levels, and that is not classical management speech. You have to work harder and faster and stuff like that. It's external factors who are putting a pressure up on it, and everybody has to move, because if you don't move, you will be moved.
Do you see this happening? I mean, I'm with you. I'm also, okay, maybe we are also in a bubble too. We have to admit that.
Yeah, sure, yeah, of course.
But I also, I'm a bit concerned about basically European economy, because it's just too slow. We're not fast enough to adopt also this new mindset basically. But do you see that actually happening, or do you really see also it's basically too slow?
It's too slow. It's too slow because from a systemic perspective, when I look at organizations, especially in Europe, you have very old organizations. You have industrialization, old economy, good economy in the past decades. But for the future, you need other things. You need another mindset, but you also need more experimentation, more investing into technologies, into projects. and stuff like that, and not the classical management approach like standardization, like leaning on one technology, leaning on one LLM and stuff like that. You have to be more flexible. And I think the easiest way for an organization to do that, or to reach that, is to create another organization outside the established organization with a fresh mindset, with fresh corporate structures, where you have the power and the magic to do things. It won't happen inside established organizational structures because you have different departments, you have different goals, departments working against each other and things like that. And when I have an agent who is able to do a digitalization over different departments, because the agent doesn't think in departments. The agent thinks that's my goal and I deliver a result. And in the middle, there are my different IT systems I interconnect and my external partners. So you don't have any organizational departments anymore, and you need to restructure. And restructuring is horribly slow. So the better thing is to build things outside, and don't do the failure, because that was the failure in agile transformations, that classical management thinks, okay, we put something outside, and when it's successful, we integrate it back into our established enterprise structure. That won't work.
Do you have an example of that a big company actually launches a kind of a whatever startup? No. You don't. No. This is just like your idea of how that could be solved, or?
No, it's just an example from the agile transformation a decade ago, where it was a classical pattern for brave organizations who tried new things. We worked in large projects, for example, for a TV chain, in one of the big TV chains in Germany. We created, I think, in a duration of 6 years, we created a new gaming platform for them. And it was the classical startup approach with a new company outside the established TV chain company, which was pretty successful, but deteriorated when they put it back into the enterprise chain. So that's it. And I have another three, 4 other examples from those times, but they are confidential, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, as I understand you, okay, the big corporates, they are very slow to adopt and maybe can't even do that in the speed that is needed. And so basically what you're saying is, okay, go outside of it, basically launch these startups. Do you see any movement there in Germany? I mean, Germany is a bit, I won't say...
Yeah, old economy, industrialization, right. Old economy.
So do you see this movement going, or is it too slow, or what needs to be done now?
It's too slow, and the problem is that AI and agentic AI is a very abstract concept for many, and that's why we also built those basic systems, because now it's tangible. And whenever we have our sales calls and we do business events, we always demonstrate these things so that people get to know what can be done in an agentic way, because some people say, oh, we have N8N and we have our agents, and we all know N8N is not agentic in any idea. It's just a deterministic workflow system, and I just don't want to bash about N8N. It's like Zapier or Make.com or all these other workflow systems. It isn't agentic, honestly. And so we have to demonstrate that to the C-level suite. And the problem is also that in a lot of companies, modern technology doesn't have a seat on the C-level table. And that's the first thing you have to do in restructuring. Things like a chief digital officer or a CTO on C-level, head of engineering, etc., with a know-how and a business acumen on modern IT. Not on IT from the past, from 10 or 20 years ago, but from modern IT. And then that's one of the success factors. So experimenting, having the right people on the C-level seat, maybe some external partners like us or others who are breathing and living AI day to day, 24 hours a day. That could be a good fit, because since, I think, 15 to 20 years, and that's one success signal I see from the past, we are working as a mixed team with our customers. So customers have their own developers, their own techies, and we come in and we build a shared mixed team. And throughout the whole cooperation, the internals learn a lot about the primitives, about how to work with AI, about how to work with coding agents. And then slowly but steadily, the know-how lifts up inside the organization. And that's the same with knowledge workers. What I said before, when you go into the change management, it's not just a change in the sense of, okay, we look that everybody has a new place now, but also to incentivize and to intensify the usage of AI. Let the fear go down when people realize, oh, AI can make errors. That's fine.
Okay, so we talked about the old economy, but let's talk about your own organization and how you actually use AI internally for maybe software development. Maybe you can quickly explain your personal setup and then also how you work in the teams, and maybe also in a way that we kind of understand where the benefits are in it, and yeah, how is your setup?
Yeah. So maybe I'm not the perfect persona for this, because I said it's just serious side projects. I have a lot of side projects to level up my own productivity for my duties as a managing director and customer consultant. So usually I have 5 to 10 command line interfaces open in my Ghosty or on my machines here in my home lab. Last year on Black Friday, I invested a lot, unfortunately, to get some new machines and build up a cluster. Now I have a private Kubernetes cluster here inside next to my Proxmox cluster. And some AI machines, and just doing some experiments with local AI and stuff like that. So basically, it's a lot of parallel development and parallel contextualization and turn-based prompting. I'm just very into planning. So the idea is to make whenever I have an idea, to create a plan about it and also create a goal prompt for that, because I heavily use goals, I heavily use loopings, and also I heavily use dynamic workflows. So let the agent decide how to build up a wave of agents, like 30, 40, 60 agents that are implementing the plan. I always harden the plan with adversarial reviews. So for example, when Claude Fable creates a plan, I always fan out this to Codex, to GPT-555. Codex to get suggestions about the plan and to incorporate and harden the plan. So that's a usual approach. And then I fan out the implementation with a dynamic workflow. That's my personal setup. It's pretty vanilla. I think I also use a lot of skills. As you said on LinkedIn, I post a lot about new repos and stuff like that. It's more like curated. If I find something interesting, sometimes I experiment with them, and I always use skills for that. And I always do some kind of self-reflection at the end of each day to think about what did I do today and would it be useful to have that as a skill? And then I create a skill for myself about my repeated process, like doing QA in software development, or for example, commenting automatically on LinkedIn, creating a new skill, writing blogs that are SEO optimized, creating a new skill for that and stuff like that. So in order to self-improve from day to day, just a little bit.
Interesting.
Every day.
Do you use something like OpenClaw or Hermes, like a personal agent?
I have an old version of OpenClaw in my home lab, and I want to reactivate that and battle that against Hermes and try out those two things, and want to reactivate my personal assistant, of course.
What is your bet on these personal assistants like OpenClaw? It was a big hype. I think it cooled down a little bit, but it's still around. What is your personal bet about it?
I think it's great for personal usage, also for smaller business. For enterprise usage, I'm not sure if it's great, because some primitives are missing. NVIDIA stepped in with hardening OpenClaw, and now Microsoft is distributing OpenClaw, I think, next to the Copilot. And Peter Steinberger, who invented OpenClaw or ClaudeBot, he was very early on. So he had the loopings, he had the channels and stuff like that. And these are all the primitives we use inside enterprise application nowadays. You have the sandboxing, you have agent-to-agent communication, you have skills, you have self-improvement skills. and stuff like that. So we use all these primitives in our projects, but from other frameworks which are more enterprisey and more established and more mature. But I think these are great systems. And from your previous question, how do our teams work? Our teams work in different levels because we have different customers who are on a different state on the maturity curve. So we have, for example, some customers where we implement dark software factories. That means our developers implement machines that are automating the creation of software from idea to production to deployment in your own Kubernetes cluster. We built our own lovable clone, Amicable. It's also on our website, which is for citizen developers and does automatic QI, automatic security checks, and where you could create also a factory software for citizen developers. And then we have other colleagues or other teams who are using coding agents like Claude Code. We have some customers who are in regulated industries. So we use open code there because the regulations say, okay, we have to use open code and some kind of specialized Copilot models, for example. Then we have other customers who use Google models on Vertex Cloud, and we use Cloud Code and Codex in combination there. Other customers where we steer the conversation with the coding agents through ticketing systems. So it's basically a mixture within our customers. We also have customers where we use our agentic systems. So we built some agentic primitives for modernizing old software. So, for example, RPG or COBOL-based software, which is 30 years old, we built small tools, agentic tools, also based on deep agents, that help a team to migrate software systems from old technology to the new target technology. And we can speed up in factor 10 or 12 the modernization of the platform. So we have different setups. And also in our company, we have different experiences with AI, and we try to improve that with internal hack days, with weekly learnings, show and tell basically, and let the people exchange what are the experience, because there's no standard way to do things. There are a lot of building blocks and technology is moving fast, so it's not easy to stay up to date, and you have to continuously experiment together with our customers.
And one thing I'm curious, I mean, you have a lot of software developers, senior software developers. How do they like AI? You know, I personally, I'm also a software developer, and I had to get over my ego, basically. I built up all my knowledge, and now I also need to let go some of my basically core skills. Yes. What is your experience with that? And also maybe some ideas and tips on bringing all these senior people on also, you know, which are skeptical, and, you know, you want tested software, you want handcrafted software, high quality. What is your experience there?
Honestly, we also have people that are at the frontier level, and we also have people who are skeptical, who say, okay, I have to trust my trust my gut feeling. I have to manually or automatically, deterministically check all the things. And I think we have a good mixture, because the critics are good to not overemphasize the hype on the one hand, but on the other hand, of course, we have to go through the transformation like every company on the planet has to go through. And if we keep our openness, if we keep our exchange, if we keep multiple opinions, if we keep our show and tell, we all learn together continuously, and we are able to lift us inside this transformation, to lift us to the front. And that's where we are also good at helping our customers, because we also have the transformation inside ourselves. And that led to creating deterministic systems and using systems like SonarQube. We used that in the past for static testing and static analysis. And we optimize our coding agents with hooks and other things, so that these outer loop, so you have the notion of the inner loop, which is the coding harness, the skills, etc., and the LLM. And the outer loop are deterministic systems we develop, especially when creating the dark software factory. You need to have systems outside that tell the coding harness, you told it's right, but no, it's wrong. Please look at these things. And the skeptics help us with these things, and together we get better.
Yeah, I always say that you still need the classic software engineering knowledge.
Yes,
I mean, it's
course.
even though if you have
architecture-wise, of
exactly.
course, architectural know-how, because at the end you're building and optimizing the machine that creates the software, and therefore you need a good portion of experience.
I want to touch on one additional topic and then we come to an end, because I think you have some experience there. And I mean, there is this discussion now about, model access. And we had this basically this situation with Anthropic's Fable, which was teared down by the US government. So it tends to become political even. And obviously now we have all these Chinese models. We have the Americans, which are very strong. There are open source models. There is this big digital sovereignty discussion, especially in Europe. As I understand, you also build your own, let's say, optimized models, local models. Where are we there? And what, do you see a future where basically every company runs their own models, optimized models? Or, how do you think about that? Maybe share a little bit of experience about that.
I think it got easier to fine-tune your own model, although to train and to maintain the own trained model is not cheap anyhow, because you have to have your own GPUs, you have to rent that, you have to get the access. That's one side of the angle. The other side of the angle, another perspective, is that innovation comes out of US and China. And Europe, as we talked before, is good in regulation. And there's a small island called France where we have Mistral, which has a decent model family, which is good to use. But that's it, basically. And for most of the tasks in agentic usage, especially when creating software for knowledge workers, you don't need fine-tuned models. There is a separate thing when you are working in a regulated industry. It could be a good idea to have your own local models, so maybe distilled from the Quen family or fine-tuned to your business domain. But the most companies don't need that. So the basic question is, have I the right architecture in my systems? Do I have a model router that is able to route the models between different things? Can I experiment with different models, for example, not only with Anthropic and GPT, but also with GLM and Kimi and Quen and other models? So I have access to these models. I can use that and experiment that. And then I have to decide in which part of my use case do I use which model. That's especially important when you scale up your use case and you do cost optimization. At the beginning, when creating a use case, when implementing an application, usually you don't need any fine-tuned model. Of course, there are exceptions. We had a project with a customer who has a product size of millions of products, and he gets requests for proposals in the construction. He's in the construction business. And so the task was to analyze the RFP documents and to detect the SKUs inside there and compare it to the own 1.5 million products and agentically and check if we can answer the RFP, because we have a meaningful coverage of our products with that, what was in the request for proposal for the construction side, for example. There we fine-trained and fine-tuned and did a lot of machine learning, classical machine learning stuff there to improve the generative AI models we use there. But that's just a special case there. But for most other cases, you usually start with a frontier model and then you optimize when you scale up with your users, because you can't plan in advance. That's like classical software engineering. Pre-major optimization was always a bad idea. And you do that iteratively when you scale up your use case.
So what you're basically saying is try to stay as independent as possible, have a model router so you are always able to switch. Start with the most intelligent at the beginning and then cost optimize. That's a good takeaway from here. So so maybe to close up this discussion, I would like to hear, how do you see the next 12 months? What's going to happen? And what are you most exciting about the next, let's say, 12 months?
Yeah, I'm most excited about the topic of dark factories. So either dark software factory or dark factories for knowledge work. That means you don't have a chat window. You have agents that are automatically running business processes, and you only have in German we say Leitstand, so some kind of mission control UI, where you see the missions of the agents, where you have some kind of spreadsheet view. What are your agents doing? An administrator can look into that. So I'm most excited because we have some projects here where we're helping companies implementing this for the software development side itself, as well as for knowledge workers. That's one trend I'm very excited. And the other trend I'm very excited is about voice systems. So as I said, we already have such a basic system, and it's very, very fascinating to see how the voice models, the real-time speech voice models, developed the last 6 months. And I'm very keen and bullish about the next 6 months, especially because open source models in the speech-to-speech area are getting closer to the frontier models. So sovereign voice systems will be a topic in the next 6 to 12 months. And the main thing is dark factories, because with sandboxes and different agents, we have all the primitives to build such factory systems.
Cool. And maybe you can share an article or a blog or something, an idea, a product, which people can check out, like a recommendation that is interesting.
Yeah, the first recommendation is to follow me on LinkedIn, because I will regularly post not only reposts, but blogs I like and recommend. And I can say I was in holidays before, and I have a large backlog of very interesting blogs. And so if you follow up in the next days on my LinkedIn, you will see a lot of tips.
Nice.
And of course, I was a Twitter skeptic over the years, like everybody did, because of some reasons of the owner of X. But I can recommend to go on X and follow all the technical people there from the US coast, West Coast and East Coast, to see what's trending there and what will come with a short delay in the Europe region. So that's my takeaway.
Cool. All right, cool. So you already said where we can find you on LinkedIn. I will also add the links to your company and your profiles. Maybe there is one last final thought you want to share to take away also from this conversation.
Yeah, thanks for the possibility to talk with you about this very interesting topic. I'm really excited about that. And I hope that everybody who sees and hears this podcast will try to make AI and to use AI a little bit more than before after this podcast.
Wonderful. Hey, thank you, Björn, for this discussion. And I wish you a nice summer anyway. And hopefully we can make another episode in a year or so and see where we are at.
Would be happy about that. Have a nice day.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.